いい仲間を持ってる。さすがはあんたの息子だな。
Welcome back, Tyrants. Today we got another One Piece chapter review. I'm going to try and do things a little bit differently today. Instead of kind of like going through page by page, I kind of just want to hit the highlights of what I thought was most important of the chapter and just see how that goes, see how that transitions. Just so it's not like a regurgitation of what you just read. And I'm still testing things to see what, kind of fits my talk style, so we'll see what happens. Let's get right in. It's a little late today, but I'm going to try and get it out still on Sunday nonetheless. Alright, let's go. As far as the cover story, it looks like Pound has finally truly reunited with his daughters. We see him hugging Lola and Chiffon, and it looks like everyone's happy. So I'm assuming that this whole cover story arc is going to be ending in about 2 or 3 more cover stories. I think what's going to happen is we're going to get something that ties this cover story into the main story. I don't think it's been going this long just for us to, I guess, see a happy ending and then move on to something else. So I think we're going to get like 2 or 3 more cover stories of this, see what it has to do with like the Grand Fleet, or see where this is headed. And then I'd say, how many ever chapters we get of this cover story, we're going to have a few fan requests. And then after the fan requests, once we get to chapter 1000, I'm expecting a big color spread. So that's why I mostly see the cover story ending here very soon. Just so we can shift around things so we can get to that color spread. So we jump into the chapter and we've got Drake and Luffy kind of talking about being allies. You have the backstory where Kobe is telling Drake about Luffy. And this seems like a moment that happened kind of just off the cuff. It sounds like Kobe was just kind of fanboying over Luffy, and he, in some degree, just started telling him all about Luffy and about what he's like, because Drake's kind of just sitting over in the corner, like he doesn't really care about what he's hearing. He's kind of more or less uninterested in everything Kobe has to say, but it comes up now because it's relevant. So you have those two kind of conversing, and we have something really cool in Zoro, in which he steps in before they really get into like a deep conversation. And he immediately says that, Drake's like Hawkins. Drake been thinking to Kaido. He's on Kaido's side. We can't trust him no matter what. Don't listen to anything he says. Just immediately attack. Which I like. I like that him and we have the rest of the crew kind of saying, don't come at Luffy, especially when we're all here. Which is really cool. But we have all the crew kind of protecting Luffy. And it's not that he needs it, and it's not that they think he's an idiot, even though they kind of make a comment about that. It's more of they're just like, how dare you step up to our captain like that? Like, especially in this moment when we're challenging a Yonko, 2 Yonkos, and, having a massive war. So I really like that. I think that was really good for, like, the crew as a whole. But even though they all say, like, we can't trust him, Luffy still says, no, it's fine, he's an ally. And I think this points to Luffy's observation haki again, which we see a lot in this chapter. We see a lot of different uses of Luffy's observation haki. But in this particular instance, we see the version that Rayleigh was talking about, in which Luffy has the ability to sense intentions more than he does actions. So I think he was able to sense that even though Drake isn't, 100% a pirate on their side, he knows that he has no ill will towards Luffy right now. So Luffy says, it's fine, he's an ally, let's keep going. Even though he says this, Zoro is still on the fence, and I think he has a good point in which Zoro is able to tell that even if you're not with Kaido anymore, there's something you're hiding. There's something that you're not telling us, and that could be dangerous for us. So Zoro's still kind of on the fence about it, and Luffy just moves on. And I think that's fine. Luffy trusts his crew to do whatever they need to do, so I think he believes that whatever happens, they'll come to the right conclusion. He's already said that Drake is an ally, so whatever the crew does is going to fall in line with that in some way, shape, or form, so he doesn't have to worry about it anymore. We get a little bit more about Page 1 and Ulti. It seems like they're doing pretty fine. They've been attacked multiple times in this arc so far, and for the most part, they don't seem any worse for wear. Even Ulti taking Yamato's Thunder Bagua, she still seems relatively fine. I think it's another testament just to how sturdy and how durable and how good the region is on the Zoans. Especially these dinosaurs seem to have amazing regen, because they all seem fine. But Usopp ends up attacking Page 1 as they're kind of talking here. And it's funny because he's hiding behind Nami, and he's pretending to be Nami and saying that Nami is the one who did it. Which is, it's the same kind of banter that we have between the weakling trio. I don't know if the Chopper isn't there, but you kind of have these two setting up what seems to be a fight with Page 1 and Ulti. Now, if that does become a full-fledged fight, I think they are going to need someone else. I think this is where Yamato comes in, because it also... It builds character with Yamato, Nami, and Usopp. It gives them the support they need, and it kind of settles the fight between Yamato and Ulti that started previously. So I think that all kind of comes together as one, and that's how I think that fight's going to turn out. I don't think Nami and Usopp can take these two on by themselves. Another thing that catches my attention is that we see the two transform again, Page 1 and Ulti, and we see that Page 1 is going back into his full form, which he's been doing pretty much each time since the fight with Sanji. He's been going straight to full zone mode. Ulti, on the other hand, seems to use hybrid mode more often. I think we've only seen her go into a full zone mode once, otherwise she was using her hybrid mode. And she hasn't fought all that much, but it seems like her hybrid mode is better suited for combat than her full zone mode. I'm not entirely sure how that works out. The zones have been, especially the dinosaur zones, have been kind of different with how their abilities work. It seems like for the most part we always thought that hybrid was the best, but we've been seeing more and more of maybe full zone is the best for dinosaurs. But I think we're still not entirely sure on that, so we'll see more of that as the fights continue. Cutting back to Luffy, him and Sanji are still making their way up to, or trying to make their way up to Kaido. And I find it odd that there's no more Tobiropo kind of blocking them, because their whole goal is to stop Luffy from moving. And we see Queen in this chapter, we see Page 1, we see Ulti. So we kind of see, we got Calamities, we've got Tobiropo, and they're still here, but they're not necessarily targeting Luffy. You get Queen, he's dealing with Drake. Page 1 and Ulti look like they're going to be chasing around Nami and Usopp. Who's Who is probably going to be going after Drake as well. So that leaves, Black Maria and Sasaki. And I don't exactly know what their role is going to be. Sasaki seems to be interested in fighting Denjiro, but we'll see if he actually makes it up there. And I think Black Maria is probably going to be a fight for Robin. I think that's still going to end up happening. But we'll see. But yeah, so Luffy is still moving forward, and he runs into Apu. And this is another sign of his observation haki, because we see that he senses what's about to happen before the attack goes off. And he tells Sanji to cover his ears. We even get a little panel of what seems to be him kind of making the realization that, an attack is coming, cover your ears. So he does that, and Apu, his reaction is somewhat interesting because he doesn't seem to be too bothered by the fact that they have this hack to his power. He mentions that, how long can you play the quiet game, or how long can you fight covering your ears like that? And so I'm imagining that it's going to be an integral part of how you have to fight Apu, is that, you at some point will uncover your ears, and how does that work in Apu's favor? Is it, instant damage? Because when Luffy didn't know about how his powers worked, he was able to get off some good hits in no time at all. So we'll see how that progresses. I don't think Apu is going to be the one to stop Luffy. I think either Sanji's going to tussle with them for a little bit, or something else is going to happen with Apu where he's kind of held back from everyone. It is of note that we have Apu's new bounty now. I don't think we've seen the new one before. Previously he was at 198 million berry, and now he's at 350 million. So he's got a substantial increase in his bounty. I don't know if this is before joining Kaido, after joining Kaido, what he did to kind of get that bounty increase, but it is a pretty substantial bounty increase. It's still lower than I think most of the other supernova we've seen so far. So Zoro and Drake stop their confrontation and they kind of focus on Apu. And I think there's a reason why they won't be fighting Apu in the main line, and that's because Queen kind of stepped in and stopped that. But Drake and Zoro kind of, I guess, ignore the differences. I think Zoro at this point realizes Captain's made an order, gotta follow it anyway, it doesn't matter. No point in fighting at this point. So they know Apu and they switch their gears to him, but as soon as they do that, Queen shifts his gears back to Drake, and he starts firing off bullets. Now, Drake makes the connection that normal bullets shouldn't affect him, and he really wouldn't be worried by it. And he says unless, and it kind of breaks off. So we get the idea that Queen is using some special rounds. Now, I think the general idea is that they're sea stone bullets. I know a lot of people are saying that they could be plague bullets, but the only thing with the plague bullets is that when they hit, they spread pretty instantly. And we see not only that the guy that got hit by the bullet isn't suffering from like the plague poison, but the guy holding him isn't suffering from the plague poison. And I think we are shown that specifically so we know it's not the plague bullets. I think the only reason we get that panel is to show that they aren't plague bullets, they're probably sea stone rounds. And if he has a sea stone round Gatling gun, that could spell a lot of trouble for a lot of people in this arc. So I'm curious to see how much Queen is going to use that and how effective it'll be. But I do like that addition, because we've been waiting to see some bullets for a while now. You know, we've seen sea stone nails, some sea stone construction that we know comes from Wano. We know Wano makes sea stone items, so we've been waiting to see more stuff with that. And now we're finally seeing like mass sea stone bullets. So, or at least that's what we think we're seeing. So I want to see more of that. I'm imagining you won't get a whole lot of that because Queen's probably going to go into his Zoan form more than just fighting with a gun. But I think we will get more for that. And now we're going to get to the meat of the chapter, the big stuff. We got Kaido and we got the Scabbards. Now the first thing we see is Jack losing his tusk and then falling over. So immediately we know that we did get an off-screen battle between Jack and Inuyasha and Nekomamushi, which it's unfortunate. I think some of us kind of expected some of this fight to be off-screen, but we did want to see some degree of the fight just for like the payback, the whole, you know, he wrecked Zhao, so they kind of have to earn their vengeance, and we kind of want to see some of that. Even being said, I think this panel is pretty telling in the fact that Jack went through a lot, and I think Jack's been getting kind of dumped on just because he's been losing a lot, but we have to remember that Jack just fought an entire Sulong army, and then fought the 2 top men of that Sulong army. So he's been doing a lot of fighting against a lot of strong people, and Kaido even mentions that, you know, Inuyasha and Nekomamushi are too strong. They're really powerful. Kaido's not even mad that Jack went down, because Jack put in a lot of work before he went down. So it's definitely not a loss for Jack. I think he did as much as he could, and he did a lot of great stuff. But Jack is down. Kaido even tells him that he should step out and heal up, which gives me the idea that Jack may be coming back for a different fight. Maybe not against super strong people. I don't know how long it's going to take for him to heal up, but I think he might be back in a fight. Maybe with some of the Straw Hats, maybe with, you know, someone a little bit in the down the line, someone not as strong as the Sulong Minks. And we finally see the Sulong forms of Inuyasha and Nekomamushi. And at first glance, I do really like the designs. I think that Nekomamushi's is a little lackluster. He looks like himself, just slightly altered in the face. Whereas Inuyasha, he looks really cool. I really like Inuyasha's design. You know, his face is different, his stature is different, everything about him seems to be changed, and he looks so much more feral and just more like a beast, and I really like that. Whereas Nekomamushi already looked kind of like a wild animal, and I think that might be more suiting to his character, but design-wise, I definitely like Inuyasha's much more. And something I want to point out about this scene in particular with Kaido and Scabbards is that we see Kaido congratulating and defending Jack, which in a general sense it seems weird because Kaido is just this monster, you know, this crazy monster of a person who doesn't really care about a whole lot. But we see him he's showing care and he's giving Jack props for what he's done. And it's interesting because I think throughout the Wano arc, we've been seeing kind of many sides of Kaido. And it makes him a much more complex character than just this meathead who swings a club around. We see, you know, the way he interacts with Yamato, even though he has this side where he would beat her and he would chain her up. He also calls her his son. And I'm wondering, is that because she wanted him to? Is that because she believes that's who she is and Kaido said, fine? There seems to be more to Kaido's character than just an aggressive meathead, and I like that. I like that we get to see more and more of that each time, and I really want to know how he interacts with certain people. Like, I want to know how his interactions with his daughter go. I want to know how his interactions with his calamities go, because we even saw with the Tobi Roppo when they came up to him. You know, Ulti was young and called him an idiot. He didn't care. Sasaki said he doesn't want to drink anybody else but Kaido. So it seems like they're close, even though, you know, they're probably the rowdiest of the Yonko groups. And it seems like Kaido does care, even if, you know, it's not an outward facing thing, even though it's not immediately noticeable. But I do want to see more about that because that's so interesting. That makes Kaido a very interesting character. But getting back into the chapter, we have Kaido launching a blast breath of Scabbards. Now, this is something we all predicted, I think, at some point in time, is that Kinemon and his Foxfire style is going to come back in a big way. And what big way than to cut Kaido's fire? So he cuts through the blast breath, doesn't hit anybody, and he actually manages to cut Kaido's mouth. So what I'm seeing here is that he did some kind of air slash that, you know, Zoro normally does. But he did that, he cut through the fire, and it had to be Ryo imbued if it was cutting Kaido. So this chain of feats in itself gives a lot of props to Kinemon and what he's able to do, because that's a very impressive feat. I'm curious as to how Kaido's kind of defense works when he's in dragon form, because I know that's how he got his scar in the first place. He was in dragon form when Odin attacked him. So I'm wondering if he's a little bit weaker. The only reason I would say he's not is because Luffy's whole thing was that the dragon scales are what makes him so tough. So it wouldn't make sense that in his dragon form, he's weaker. So I guess we'll see more about that as this fight progresses. I think we'll see more of this fight than we did with Jack, just because this is a main fight. This is Kaido versus the Scabbards. So we're going to see how this turns out. Now, I'm still pretty certain that they're going to lose. You know, maybe they'll get some more good hits on Kaido, but I'm pretty certain that they'll be done. They're not going to last the entire fight. They're going to be out by the time Luffy gets up there. And that's when the major fight happens. So for final thoughts, I thought this was a really good chapter. We covered a lot of things that we were kind of looking forward to. We finally saw the Sulong form. We've been looking for that for a while. We're getting more of Kaido versus the Scabbards. You know, it was getting weird that just Kaido and the Scabbards were kind of just watching for the beginning half of that. It didn't make a whole lot of sense why they were just letting... I mean, it makes some sense in which they want to get the fodder out of the way, but also Kaido's comment, and I'm not just going to let you take out my men, doesn't make a lot of sense when they were just watching chapters beforehand. So I'm not really sure about all of that. You know, I think that's kind of weird, but anything to get us to the main point of the fight, anything to get us to Kaido versus the Scabbards, I think is what we're going for here. One thing I don't think I mentioned when I was talking about Apu is that it seemed like he was controlling the numbers with music. The translation I read was kind of iffy on that, and even the official one, it still doesn't blatantly state it, but it seems like he's kind of leading them with music. So I think that's the part that he's kind of talking about, in which even if I can't affect you with music, I can affect other things with music. So the silent fight won't be as easy as you think, being just because you cover your ears doesn't mean you're safe, doesn't mean you're protected. So I am curious to see how that plays out. I'm expecting that next chapter we might get a little more of the Kaido versus Scabbards in the beginning. I think we're going to start seeing some named moves from the Scabbards. I think we're going to start seeing more from the Scabbards. But my biggest thing about Kaido is that I don't think he's going to stay in dragon form the entire fight. I think this might be the first time we get to see him in a hybrid form, because I just don't think dragon form is good for this fight. I don't think he's going to make it that far with dragon form if, you know, Boro Breath doesn't work. If they can launch air slashes, if you get two Sulong minks, it seems like this might be too much for a dragon form. He might have to go human form or hopefully hybrid form. So I think we'll be seeing that change. You know, maybe at the end of the chapter we see him shrink to his hybrid form, and that's how that chapter ends. I think Jack is going to heal. Like I said before, he's going to heal and he's going to come back in a smaller way. He's not going to be 100%, but he'll be back. I don't think he's down for the count quite yet. And I think we're going to see Yamato next chapter. I think we're going to see more of Yamato coming back into the scene, because I think she's been gone for a little bit now, and there's only so much she can do chasing after Shinobu and Momo. I think that kind of runs its course after a little bit, so I think she'll be coming back into play soon. But I'm definitely excited for next chapter. Let me know if you guys agree, if you disagree, throw a like or dislike, rate the video, however you feel. And you guys all have a great day. Bye.